In the last 10-11 years, the Chinese establishment has demonstrated its resolve and will to manifest multilateralism not only in the economic domain in the form of Belt and Road Initiative, but also in the domain of defense, culture and security. And that brings me to point out a particular facet of the Chinese establishment, which is the manifestation of 3 such important initiatives जो चाइना ने पिछले 2 सालों में लॉन्च किए हैं. One of them is of course the Global Security Initiative. Then the second is the Global Development Initiative. And the third is the Global Civilization Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all for today's quick video, जहां पे मैं आपके साथ इंपॉर्टेंट इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की सीरीज में आज ग्लोबल सिक्योरिटी इनिशिएटिव की बात करूंगा. A couple of days back, a brilliant piece of article came in the website IDSA, and it was in my mind that I should share the gist of this article with all of you, because this is very relevant and very important considering your upcoming UPSC Prelims. I am your educator Kuber Singh for IR, for security as well as for essay writing. Let's begin the session. Now, this initiative, the Global Security Initiative, post the Ukraine war, I'm talking about 2022, Ukraine war को 3 years complete हो चुके हैं. Post the Ukraine war, somewhere in April 2022, Xi Jinping came out with this Global Security Initiative. And the whole ideology and the basis of this initiative was based upon a term which is indivisible security. Now, being a student of the IR, being a student of PSIR and teaching international relations for the last so many years, I would want to emphasize on one fact that long ago, states used to consider themselves as security maximizers. The classical realist school of thought in international relations वो ये कहता है कि जो states हैं, जो countries हैं, वो स्वयं अपने आप ही जिम्मेवार होते हैं, रिस्पॉन्सिबल होते हैं अपनी सिक्योरिटी को मैक्सिमाइज करने के लिए. और आप अपनी सिक्योरिटी को मैक्सिमाइज करने के लिए किसी और अलायंस या किसी और देश के ऊपर ज्यादा समय के लिए निर्भर नहीं कर सकते हैं. चाइना ने 2022 में इस पर्टिकुलर आइडियोलॉजी और इस पर्टिकुलर आइडिया को रिवाइव करा है विद दिस ग्लोबल सिक्योरिटी इनिशिएटिव. China is saying that indivisible security. Post the Ukraine war, immediately 2 months after the Ukraine war, when China came out with this initiative, China was saying that look, if Ukraine has a problem, if Poland has a problem, if Germany has a problem, these countries, they have to be responsible and sufficient in their own selves rather than being dependent upon any military alliance. Now basically, China is defense diplomacy और इस security diplomacy में एक डायमेंशन ऐड करना चाह रहा है ऑफ सिक्योरिटी मल्टीलेटरलिज्म. सो चाइना थ्रू दिस इनिशिएटिव वांटेड टू चैलेंज द यूएस लेड मल्टीलेटरलिज्म. नाउ चाइना हैड सेड दैट ये जो ग्लोबल सिक्योरिटी इनिशिएटिव है, इट इज ओपन फॉर एनी कंट्री टू जॉइन. 11 years, 12 years into the Belt and Road Initiative, it was very important for China that look, I enjoy a lot of defense, I enjoy a lot of economic clout. China has deep pockets. China enjoys a lot of economic clout in the rest of the world. China is investing, as we speak, billions and billions, and I think the figure has reached around about trillions of dollars in this Belt and Road Initiative. But in order to challenge the status quo, just investing in Belt and Road Initiative will not be sufficient. And therefore, China wants to legitimize its authority and its position in the Committee of Nations by also demonstrating its will to talk more about multilateralism in the defense and security domain. Now, this Global Security Initiative, this is an initiative. This is not a formal alliance. This is not an organization जिसमें कोई आपको किसी पर्टिकुलर आइडियोलॉजी की बेसिस पे मेंबरशिप मिलती है. ये इनिशिएटिव सबके लिए ओपन है. तो ऐसी जो स्टेटमेंट्स हैं आपको ध्यान से नोट करनी है, बिकॉज ये जो स्टेटमेंट्स हैं, रिमेंबर द डेविल लाइज इन डिटेल. Remember one thing, that you have to read these statements very carefully, because when the statements based MCQs are asked, we often end up committing errors. So ये जो ऐसे statements हैं, खास करके जो कंफ्यूजिंग साउंड करते हैं, उनको ध्यान से पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है. सो ग्लोबल सिक्योरिटी इनिशिएटिव इज नॉट बेस्ड अपॉन दैट ओके लाइक बैक इन द 1940s जब नेटो बना था या 1955 में वॉर्सॉ बना था, देयर वर अ सर्टेन ग्रुप ऑफ कंट्रीज, let's say the capitalist countries were part of NATO and let's say the communist bloc was part of the Warsaw Pact. इसमें कोई ये communist capitalist divide नहीं है, कोई socialist communist capitalist divide नहीं है. This initiative is primarily based on the idea that look, China is saying that I believe in the concept of indivisible security. If you also believe in the same concept, come and join this initiative. So this is a larger framework for global security. China through this initiative is trying to cater to the second and the third world countries, thereby assuring them that look, you need not feel intimidated or threatened by any major security alliance. Primarily China यहाँ पे ये जो taunt है, ये जो sarcasm है, NATO को दे रहा है. Now it's been 12 years that the Belt and Road Initiative was launched back in 2013. In fact, this initiative, the BRI, has already breached the $1 trillion mark. Now, therefore, it was again, as I just said a couple of minutes ago, it was very important for China to have a certain initiative in the domain of security and defense, which can have an expansive and diverse outreach as the BRI has. And therefore, that is why China has kept this membership open for any country who wants to be a part of this. Talking about security and defense, back in 2014, just 1 year after launching the Belt and Road Initiative, back in 2014, during the first meeting of the Central National Security Commission, China had at that time also had come out with an overall national security concept. However, this national security concept which China had come out was primarily relating more towards the internal security and the territorial and the traditional and non-traditional security matters pertinent to China. However, 8 years after in 2022, China came with a much wider security landscape called as the Global Security Initiative. Now, the 6 commitments, so there are 6 commitments which are there under the GSI framework. By the way, friends, there's another question towards the end of the video. So I would kindly request you कि आप end of the video तक बने रहें ताकि आप उसका जो question का answer है comment section में answer कर सकें. Now, 6 commitments हैं under this framework. पहली commitment है that look, वही जो पंचशील अग्रीमेंट की जो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं वही यहां पे आप देखने को आपको मिलेगा. Look what China is talking about under the Global Security Initiative, that we will abide by. China is saying that all the countries agreeing to be a part of the Global Security Initiative, you all will abide by the concept of common, comprehensive, cooperative and sustainable security. Then China is also talking about that we will abide by the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all. This is exactly what Jawaharlal Nehru had signed back in 1954 with Zhou Enlai as the Panchsheel Agreement. Then China, the one which is opposing international law, is talking about abiding to the UN Charter. Then number 4 is that uphold the principle of indivisible security so that we can ultimately help achieve universal and common security. Then number 5, abiding by international law and abiding through diplomacy to resolve international or territorial or maritime disputes. Again, all this what China is talking about, China is doing the complete opposite. And then number 6, so for the semantics, just for the sake of semantics and catering to the rhetoric, all this looks as a very rosy language कि China ये बात कह रहा है. And number 6, maintaining security in both the traditional and non-traditional domains. Now, this also brings us to the next question that, sir, what is the difference between the BRI and the Global Security Initiative? So quickly, let's try to understand. Let's understand that the BRI and the GSI both were launched by one man, Xi Jinping. However, one was launched in 2013, GSI was launched in 2022. Emphasis of the BRI was primarily on economic and development infrastructure. In bridging the development deficit in the second and the third world countries, the BRI was launched, spanning across Asia, South Asia, West Asia, Africa, up to the Mediterranean and also up to the Latin American region. And as you know, the BRI has 2 components. You have the Maritime Silk Road and you have the land component, the One Belt, One Road. Whereas the Global Security Initiative was primarily launched catering to global security and strategic cooperation. Now, the objective of BRI is, of course, completely different. That is to improve and emphasize more on the trade and economic connectivity spanning across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America, and also thereby giving an opportunity for China, to China so that China can enhance its global economic influence. However, in Global Security Initiative, this is promotion of a new security framework which is based upon the cardinal principle of showing mutual respect and mutual cooperation towards each other. And also, this initiative is also talking about that, look, let's not support the idea of any kind of one-sided or unilateral sanctions, or let's oppose to the idea of large military alliances. So whether it is Quad, so China is saying whether it is NATO, whether it is Quad, whether it is AUKUS, all these alliances, they are a threat to international peace and stability. That is what China is talking about. And let's involve dialogue so that we can peacefully resolve the conflict. China has a millions conflict. China might be having 1 million conflicts with India, but China is not ready to have a dialogue with us. But China is talking about having and promoting dialogue under this GSI initiative. Now, the participating countries, as far as the BRI is concerned, is primarily Europe, Latin America, Africa. All these countries, they have signed the BRI agreements, whereas there is no formal membership when we talk about the GSI, but there are around 40 odd countries out of 180 who have endorsed or supported the idea of GSI. Now, when we talk about the BRI, you have dedicated financial institutions which are catering to the needs of BRI. For example, the AIIB, the Silk Road Fund, the China Development Bank. However, for the GSI initiative, there is no dedicated financial institution. This is more of strategic and diplomatic engagement. Challenges for the BRI are in terms of the debt sustainability concerns, in terms of the environmental and social impact, and of course the political pushback which is coming from America and Europe. So you have these initiatives, the PGII, the B3W, the IMEC corridors. So again, all these initiatives are a way to challenge the BRI dominance of China. And as far as the GSI is concerned, the biggest challenge is that this raises a lot of suspicion in the minds of the Western bloc, in the minds of the Western countries. What are the real intentions of China? Is China really concerned about the security atmosphere? Is China really concerned about the security cooperation? Does China really have those serious intentions to promote an atmosphere whereby China would encourage peaceful resolution of disputes? Now, in the picture, you can see the foreign minister of China, Wang Yi, and ultimately, this whole global security initiative is a sort of a rebranding and a PR strategy for China, जहां पे China अपना recently found and newfound love for diplomatic activism को reflect कर सकता है, manifest कर सकता है. ये diplomatic activism is the so-called, momentum which China wants to garner. Interestingly, when we talk about the implementation of GSI, China is saying that let's make the full use of the UNGA, the UNSC, and all other organizations which are a part of the UN, including the ICC, not the ICC. ICC is of course not a part of the UN, beg your pardon, but the ICJ and other organizations of UN. Point is that China was always against any kind of multilateral arrangement which was endorsed by America. But now, China is trying to challenge the status quo by asking the countries that let us show cooperation to these so-called multilateral bodies which were made, by post the World War II. And then also, China is also talking about showing an all-out diplomacy, an all-out approach towards other alliances, towards other regional and international organizations like BRICS, like SCO, like ASEAN, then the China plus Central Asian initiative. So spanning across Central Asia, Africa, FOCAC, Latin America, European Union, all the blocs, all the regions. So China wants to engage with every region of the world. Now also, this global security initiative is trying to increase China's influence and strategic influence over Middle East, Latin America, Caribbean countries, Pacific Island countries, जहां पे in particular region पे primarily वेस्ट यानी कि अमेरिका और यूरोप का इन्फ्लुएंस काफी रहा है, तो उनका इन्फ्लुएंस कम करने की कोशिश चाइना कर रहा है इस इनिशिएटिव के जरिए. एंड ऑल्सो इस इनिशिएटिव के जरिए चाइना ट्रैक 1.5 एंड ट्रैक 2 डिप्लोमेसी, यानी कि डिप्लोमेसी नॉट रियली इन्वॉल्विंग द स्टेट एक्टर्स बट द नॉन स्टेट एक्टर्स, इस आइडियोलॉजी को भी प्रमोट करना चाह रहा है. Now, surprisingly, 16 out of the 54 African countries have supported the GSI. अगर हम लैटिन अमेरिका की बात करें, 4 out of the 33 have supported this initiative. So, unlike the BRI, which has a lot of appeal, which has a lot of seduction, the GSI is not able to seduce the second and the third world countries to an extent जितना BRI कर पाए हैं. तो लैटिन अमेरिका में जैसे क्यूबा है, निकारागुआ है, यूरुग्वे है, वेनेजुला है, ये 4 इंपॉर्टेंट कंट्रीज हैं आउट ऑफ द 33 जो कि सपोर्ट कर रही हैं जीएसआई को. यूरोप में केवल 3 हैं, अजरबैजान, बेलारूस एंड सर्बिया, जो कि अपनी सपोर्ट जीएसआई को दे रहे हैं. देन ये कंट्रीज पर्टिकुलरली एशिया में हैं. ऑफ कोर्स कंट्रीज लाइक पाकिस्तान, श्रीलंका, मालदीव्स, दे विल ऑफ कोर्स सपोर्ट एंड एंडोर्स चाइना. नाउ अंडरस्टैंड वन थिंग दैट दिस, नाउ ये इंपॉर्टेंट है, स्टेटमेंट्स इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर प्रीलिम्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, दैट ये एक इनिशिएटिव है, ये कोई फॉर्मल अलायंस नहीं है, कोई फॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं है, जैसे कि एससीओ है, जैसे कि ब्रिक्स है, ये कोई फॉर्मल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं है. तो ये बात आपको याद रखनी है. और दूसरा, ये जो पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है जीएसआई, ये जो पर्टिकुलर आइडिया है, दिस इज एंडोर्स्ड बाय द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फॉरेन अफेयर्स ऑफ चाइना, नॉट बाय द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस. क्रिटिक्स का ये कहना है कि ये जो चाइनीज लेड जीएसआई है, ये बेसिकली चाइना के पावर पॉलिटिक्स को प्रमोट करने का एक आइडिया है, और चाइना ये चाह रहा है कि किसी तरह से जो बायपोलर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर है बिटवीन चाइना एंड अमेरिका वो बने रहे. और चाइना इन कोऑपरेशन विद कंट्रीज लाइक रशिया एंड पाकिस्तान, host of like-minded authoritarian partners in the global south, China would want to weaken जो American-led international security order है. However, ये बात हम सब जानते हैं कि चाइना उस इंटरनेशनल सिक्योरिटी ऑर्डर को कंप्लीटली रिप्लेस नहीं कर सकता है. आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. यहां पे आपके सामने 4 स्टेटमेंट्स हैं, इनमें से हाउ मेनी, यानी कि कितने स्टेटमेंट्स हैं जो कि करेक्ट है, और वो कौन से स्टेटमेंट हैं वो भी आपको कमेंट सेक्शन में बताना है. और आज से हमारा आईआर का क्रैश कोर्स शुरू हो रहा है. यदि नहीं एनरोल किया तो आ जाओ, एनरोल कर लो. यहां पे हमारे कोर कंसेप्ट्स और फैक्ट्स और करंट अफेयर्स इन द लास्ट 1.5 years आने वाले 10 दिनों में कवर होने वाले हैं. रोज 1.5 आवर 1 आवर की क्लास रहेगी, जहां पे क्विकली मैं पिछले 1.5 years के करंट अफेयर्स आपके साथ कवर करूंगा. टोल फ्री नंबर पे कॉल करके इसके बारे में जानकारी ले सकते हैं. आई विल सी यू वेरी सून. थैंक यू.